Drop the music down to a more manageable level. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday night. While most people are busy preparing for the rest of their week of work, I am preparing for yet one more day off of work because it is Canada Eve this evening. That's right. It is the day before Canada's great birthday, Canada Day, on July 1st. That will be tomorrow. Big national holiday. Kind of the equivalent of America's July 4th Independence Day celebrations. So, seem to have quite a few differences lately, but I guess we can both agree on early July being the best time to have your national holiday. Anywho. I'm 2 minutes late, 200 push-ups. No can do. Not right now. I won't be able to paint steady if I do that right now. I'll bank them and do them later. I promise. Pinky swear. Pardon me, I'm gonna grab some water. It's a bit hot and dry here today. Go ahead and turn down my headphones because they're blaring right now. Double it and give it to the next person. Yes, pay it forward. Okay. So, as the poll would have alluded to, we have the dropship on the menu tonight. I'm going to hop over to the painting desk shortly. This is the Catalyst Game Labs map scale dropship. Not a huge amount of details on it, just kind of a big open canvas. So I figured this is kind of the perfect scheme for it because there's just a lot of stuff to cover with details that we make. So it's going to be good. Looking forward to it. We're going to go through the airbrushing on the initial portion, and then we'll get into a bit of dry brushing and then a bit more airbrushing. And then we'll get into a little bit of dry brushing and some sponge glazing. Very cool technique that I learned from Kevin Witt, aka Brushido, a number of years ago. I want to say back in like 2021. I had messaged him on Facebook, I believe, about how he did his Clan Novacat Alpha Galaxy miniatures, and he told me about sponge glazing. Pretty simple process, but it yields a really nice result, especially if you're trying to go for that like nebula look. So yeah, it's a very cool little technique that just works really well. So doing it at this scale will be interesting. I've got a couple larger sponge pieces, and I don't know, I'll kind of build most of the volume on the base of it or with the airbrush rather, and then I'll go into the sponge just to kind of make things look a little bit more organic and spacey. Alrighty. Let's hop over to the paint desk and we'll get oriented and get started. Okay. Going to bumped up the volume on the voice just a little bit. Now, because I'm going to be running my airbrush, I'm running a audio cleaning program that basically kind of cleans up any background noise away from my voice. So because this airbrush compressor is pretty loud, sometimes the voice quality gets not so great, so do let me know in the chat if it starts to smell a little bit, or starts to sound a little bit Robotronic, and I'll see what I can do to fix it. But yeah, I'd rather not have you guys listening to the airbrush compressor in the background. So as you can see, I have the Overlord Clan version dropship right here. This is just mounted to a paint pot that I got from Michael's, I believe. And it's just got a bunch of slingshot ammo BBs inside it just to make it nice and heavy, and I just used some white sticky tack to mount it to the bottom. I just made sure I primed this and let it dry nice and long, and then stuck her on. Boom. First color that we're going to start with is just a little bit of black gray from Vallejo Model Colors. So essentially what we're doing is painting this with an overall black scheme that has bluish star fields. Essentially the star fields are going to kind of be densest around the middle, and they'll fade out a little bit toward the bow and stern, or nose and aft, depending on what nomenclature you want to use. But essentially the middle 2/3 is going to see the highest concentration of stars and nebula and all that good stuff, and then we're going to thin it out to pure black, or highlighted black, volumetric black on the top and the bottom. The very bottom is going to get painted at the very end because this is obviously stuck on. I can't really paint the very bottom until the very end. It's not going to get painted with anything fancy. I'm pretty much just going to dry brush it with metallics. Yeah, let's hop right into this. I was initially going to paint this, fun story, I was initially going to paint this as Aerodynamic Light Course or 3rd Star League, but then realized that they don't actually get access to the clan version, so that killed that dream. Give you guys a quick little lowdown of my setup here. I just have a little piece of paper towel off on the side here. I also have my a little water pot, double water pot for my brushes. I also have just a container. This is what I'm going to use to kind of dump water out into when I'm cleaning my airbrush in between colors. I also have a spray bottle here. This is not Windex, this is just straight up water for my tap. And this is what I'm going to use to help spray out some of the water, or spray out some of the paint rather. I've got some airbrush flow improver and thinner. Both of these are from Vallejo. Having a hard time getting these as of late because there's like a strike going on with Vallejo, so it's kind of tricky getting some of their products at the moment, but these are very good. I really like these. There is also a airbrush version of this paint, but it's just slightly brighter than this one. This one is like a pure charcoal gray, so it's just a little bit brighter than black. This is what we're going to use to kind of build a little bit of volume highlighting on this, just kind of on the upper sections. I am just going to use a little bit of thinner because this paint is a little bit thick coming out of the bottle. I'm just adding a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. Oh, you also might be wondering what this is. This is just acrylic palette paper. I don't actually like using this on my wet palette because I just find it overhydrates my paints, but I do find it nice just for checking spray pattern with my airbrush. So that's why I have it here. I also do normally use a like an airbrush spray booth. I'm just not using one today because I'm not using I'm not spraying a huge volume of paint. I have my window open and I have a fan going in the background, so I'm good to go there. I normally also wear a respirator when I do this, but that's not really conducive to good video. So I just have a little bit of flow improver as well as thinner. It's kind of about half and half in there right now. I just want to thin this down to a good consistency. Do my best to show you what that consistency is going to be. Now, I know for some people this is kind of like a faux pas, like never mix in your airbrush pot. There's a lot of people that argue just to mix in something else and pour it in, but I'm a dirty heathen. Just going to go ahead and mix it right in here. About thin enough. I'm gonna go ahead and so this is like, I don't know, people always talk about like milk consistency. This is kind of milk consistency, maybe like whole milk consistency. little bit of speckling. I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit more flow improver to this. And in case anybody's wondering, my PSI is set to about like 22, 23. Yeah, looking at it right now, it's about 23 PSI. Actually, just going to add tiniest little bit of thinner to this instead of flow improver, because it was a little bit thick and creamy. Now, one thing I do sometimes here, you'll notice I'll kind of put my finger over the end and I'll press my trigger and pull back, and that just kind of gives a bit of backflow to get this all mixed up. Papa Chicken, sorry man, I missed it. What scheme are you doing for the dropship? Clan Novacat, Alpha Galaxy. I think maybe I didn't actually mention it. Maybe I got sidetracked. That's very possible. I'm gonna go ahead and put my little airbrush holder off to the side here. I'm gonna zoom out because this is actually quite a large piece. So all I'm doing is kind of hitting it from the top here. I'm gonna kind of go around the world here. And I'm just building up volume on the top portions. Just like so. From the side, it's a lot more subtle. When you look at it from top down, it's a little bit more pronounced. Now I'm gonna do kind of around the world on the lower side here. I do have my airbrush compressor going in the background right now, so do let me know if I sound like super weird and robotronic with my voice. Should hopefully sound okay. I was doing a little bit of audio testing earlier today and it sounded okay. It just seems like the quality of my voice just decreases ever so slightly. So, yeah. So as you can see, this is like very, very gentle volume highlighting. Very simple, nothing fancy. I'm just doing it kind of from top down. A couple areas I think I want to reinforce here. Right here. I do like looking at it from this angle, just because this is kind of the brightest angle you'd be able to look at this. So that's pretty good. We don't really want to brighten this too much because a lot of the volume of the brightness is going to be coming from those star fields. We are going to dry brush this just a little bit. What I am going to do though is I'm going to come to these individual panels for the landing gear, and I'm just going to emphasize just a little bit of extra highlighting on these, just because maybe they're not as smooth and shiny because they're where the landing gear is, and just want to make sure these guys are a little bit more noticeable because they can get lost in the sauce. What airbrush am I using? This is a Wada Eclipse CR. I'm just using like the standard 0.3 millimeter needle that comes with it. I'm not using anything fancy. Completely stock. I haven't done anything to this, so. I just wanted to emphasize some of the highlighting on the landing gear pieces, just because they're coming out at a more, I don't know, upright angle that would be reflecting a lot more light from the top, especially against the kind of the underside where it curves underneath. Creates a lot of contrast. You know, it's all dark grays and black, but contrast is everything. And then once we add a little bit of a quick dry brush, just to kind of hit some of these bigger, more pronounced edges, it's just gonna pump that contrast up just a little bit more. And then we're gonna work into the fun stuff and start building up the base of the nebula. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and pop this guy down. Show you how I very quickly change colors. Nothing fancy, this is just my process. I know this is not how everybody does it, but this is how I prefer to do it. So I'm literally just going to dump my little bit of excess paint, and I'm going to kind of keeping this thing tilted at a slightly upside down angle. I'm just spraying up into this, so it just flushes all of that paint out. And I might have some paint kind of starting to dry in a film on there. I'm just going to go ahead and grab this, just a clean piece of paper towel. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe it out. I'll go ahead and spray this one more time. That way, if there's any little chunks of paint or any flakes or anything, they get flushed. And then I'm going to add just a little bit of water in here. I'm going to kind of do that backflow thing, just to try to coax any other paint out of there. And as you can see, that got gray pretty fast. I'm going to go ahead and do that again. Boom. Now I'm going to go ahead and directly just flush this out straight through the needle. And I'm just doing it to this pot. And it's flushed. You probably can't hear my airflow going on my my airbrush, simply because I have that audio program that's just cleaning up the background. But yeah, all I did was flush that right into here. This is not Windex. This is just straight up water. I don't use ammonia or Windex to clean my airbrush. There are a lot of people that use Windex to clean. I just don't see the need for it. I use this, and then if I need to, I use a little bit of airbrush cleaner. I'm just going to go ahead and check the needle here. I have the crown cap. I'm just going to gently unscrew this. I'm just going to check the needle tip. No, there's nothing built up on it. No dried paint, so we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bit more water here and flush this once. Spraying this through. Boom. Nice and clean. I'm just going to put that off to the side and take a drink of water. Hydration break. Boom. Okay. I'm going to take this, move this out of the way as well. Let's go on to a quick little dry brush. We're not going to do anything fancy. Acrylic paper will come in handy here. I'm also going to pop this open. Use a little bit of, so this is a very cold gray. It almost looks like a highly desaturated purple. I'm going to mix these two. So I'm going to form something that's just a little bit brighter than this black gray charcoal color. And that's what I'm going to dry brush this, just to hit some of those panel edges and all that goodness. I'm going to give this one more quick shake. Camo Specs Online, what's up, brother? I'm going to go ahead and assume that that's Ryan. What's going on there, fella? Zach's head has entered the chat. Go ahead and give this a good shake as well. I do have a paint pot mixer, but it's really just like a nail polish pot shaker, but it's just kind of loud and clunky, so I really got to get myself a Vortex mixer. Until then, I'll just go ahead and strain my wrists. Okay, so as you can see, I just have a little bit of paint off to the side there. Forgot how to think in English there for a second. I'm just gonna go ahead and, so as you can see, I dab this just in my my wet palette sponge just to load just a little bit of moisture. I'm just going to tap this off on my acrylic paper. Now it's very hard to see in the camera, but I can see just little dots of moisture coming off onto this paper. I'm just waiting until a lot of those dots just don't really appear when I touch this. Okay. Yeah, releasing just very, very little amounts of moisture. I'm just going to go ahead and spin this up on my wet palette. I'm going to go ahead and work this off onto my acrylic paper here. I don't have a texture palette at the moment. I did for a while. I just don't at the moment. I unfortunately damaged it, and I have yet to build another one. I'm gonna go ahead and stipple this just to kind of work this in. Yeah, man, that's me just hanging in Tokyo on a layover, waiting to get back. Glad I can jump in and watch. Nice. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and hit this. Just gonna kind of go back and forth all over, top, and then I'm just gonna focus mostly from top down. I'll do a little bit side to side, but mostly just focusing on top down. This is going to be very, very subtle. I don't want this to be very pronounced. Eventually I'm going to go back in, like once I do all the starfield work and some detail work with metallics and all that good stuff, I'm going to go back in and do like some, just basic weathering. Because even though I want to have like pretty starfields on this guy, I also want it to look like something that's actually used and not just like a museum piece. I want it to have a little bit of wear and tear, just very minor stuff. Scuffs and a little bit of patina here and there. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit more paint to this shortly. I'm really not trying to apply a lot of pressure with this brush. I'll go a little bit of side to side over here on some of these weapon pods. Not really going to worry about the landing gear themselves too much because I'm going to be doing those in other colors eventually. A little bit of a mix of metallic, some brown, and a bit of gray. But that's going to be probably next stream, because I have a feeling most of this stream is just going to be around building the star fields and nebula. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit more paint to the brush. It's one of the reasons why I did it on the wet palette here, is it just keeps a little bit more on there. A little glove check there. Reinforce some of these bigger, harder edges down here on the landing gear, and a little bit up on these kind of, I don't know, almost pentagonal pieces. Not true pentagons, but you know, they got 5 sides, kind of house shaped. Okay, we're just about good here. We're not going to beat the dead horse on dry brushing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and set this down off to the side. I'm going to go ahead and give this a good rinse. Literally just going to dunk this straight into my pot here, and I'm just running it around on the bottom. Not going to go too fast so I don't make a mess here. And then I'll run it out into my clean rinse. And as you can see, like, there's still a little bit that comes out. But this, I like doing this, have a dirty rinse and a clean rinse. It's pretty handy. Now obviously that's like super waterlogged, so I'm just going to go ahead and do the old cornhole ring. Boom. Know what I'm saying? You get it, you get it. I'm not gonna help you out there. The pieces are laying on the table. You just gotta put them together. And I'm just going to town, rotating this out on the towel that I have here. And that's good enough. It's got most of the moisture out. I'm gonna go ahead and put that up on my rack to dry, and we'll pop this back over here. I'll put this over here. Was the texture palette worth the effort? Never got around to making it. I like my texture palette. It helps me test if the dry brush is empty enough. I like my DIY texture palette too when I remember to use it. Yeah, that was me. I didn't use it all the time. kind of forgot sometimes, but it was definitely handy. I felt like it was worth it, but I definitely also felt like every couple times I painted, I had to prime it just to kind of bring it back to a flat area. That way I could actually tell how much paint was coming off my brush. Or else when, if I had like 7 different colors all over the place, then it's kind of hard to tell, right? So that was one thing I noticed. And just with the paint buildup, I definitely found you'd end up with kind of a weird bumpy texture kind of on everything. And then that also made it just a little bit more weird trying to test consistency on like sharp corners, smooth surfaces, things like that. So I feel like it only lasted so long, and then I eventually dropped it and it kind of broke and peeled off. I just had it on like an old container lid, just everything glued in. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of want to make another one. I've seen a couple like cool STL files for texture palettes that guys print with like resin printers. I don't know. Seems pretty cool. Anywho, okay, what we're gonna do is go ahead and build up a little bit of the base nebula color on this guy. We're gonna again focus on like the middle 2/3, and it's supposed to be blue star fields, but I'm going to sneak a little bit of purple in as like the base tone. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of royal purple. This is from Vallejo Model Colors. Just gonna move this, cover my wet palette just for the time being, so I don't have things drying out. I'm also gonna move this out of the way so this isn't causing like focal point issues with my camera. We're gonna be going back to the airbrush here. Kind of staging a couple things off to the side here that you can't really see that well. And I'm just gonna go ahead and bring this back over, move this slightly out of the way. Add just a little bit of flow improver here, and I'm just going to add a few drops to start. Very small amount. I'll go ahead and zoom in just slightly. I'm going to add just a bit of thinner as well because this is kind of a thicker paint coming out of the bottle. Got like a decent amount in there. Go ahead and flush just a little bit through. Got my airbrush compressor going in the background. Be interested to know if you guys can actually hear it. I don't think you guys will be able to. But yeah, I had to figure out something with my airbrush compressor because I had it a little bit too close to my desk, and would create a pretty cool like vibration effect that almost made it seem like you were drunk and had the spins with my camera. So yeah, it was very interesting. I had to like put rubber weightlifting pads underneath it, as well as like a towel, just to kind of kill some of the vibration. Or else I think everybody would have been in fits by the end of the stream. I'm just going and mixing up this royal purple. This is fairly thin. This is going over black anyway, so it's not going to be super noticeable, but you definitely want this to be pretty thin. This is not like base coat thin. This is a little bit thinner than that. I'm going to go ahead and just give a little bit of backflow just to get some of the stuff in the bottom mixed in. Gonna go ahead and spray paint. I'm going to add just a little bit more flow improver to this. Actually, I'm going to thin this out even more. I'm going to add more thinner. Adding a pretty decent amount there. Really, really want this thin. Like, not glazed thin, but you want this thin. Fighting a small clog there. One of the small reasons that you aren't, supposed to mix in the pot, but whatever. All right, so this is much thinner. I'm not getting like any like big speckling. Like there's no noticeable speckling with this, and that's exactly what I want. Just building the volume nice and cleanly. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and set this down. This stuff's super handy to have. This acrylic paper. Sound everything's working fine. You don't sound robotic or anything, but you sure do sound like a mini painting nerd. Good one. Frankie Fingers 77. Howdy, folks. It's an interesting name, Frankie Fingers. Anyways, all right. I'm literally just gonna kind of very, very gently pick a few areas. And I'm just going to kind of go in random designs. I want, like, less is more when you do this. Oh, there we go. I was just fighting a tiny little clog. This is going to be fairly subtle. This spot's a little bit bright, but that's okay. Like those are just going to be some of the brighter areas. And honestly, some of these won't. Like some of these bright areas can be areas in between some of the bright areas that are like really, really, really distant galaxies and nebula that are harder to see. Now, you probably can't tell, but what I'm doing here is I'm just giving little bursts, but the entire time I have my air going. So my air is going right now, and I'll just give little bursts. Very, very, very small ginger pulls on the trigger, just so you can see. But I'm keeping the air flowing the entire time until, obviously I take it off. The reason I'm doing that is I'm just trying to get the paint to dry as quickly as possible, and especially because this is a very thin paint, I don't want it spider webbing or like spreading out in like big obvious lines. Kind of going up and down in like this lazy W pattern almost. Pick a couple areas up there. How do you keep it subtle and not overdo it? Honestly, just like you almost have to work against your initial gut instincts, because everybody wants to punch this up to be super bright right off the bat. You just got to understand that like these initial several colors that you're putting are just the base to all the brightness that you're going to be building. So you really don't want to overdo it with this. Space is mostly empty, and even bright star fields are mostly black with little smatterings of color, unless you're looking at like close-ups of the Carina Nebula or something like that. Again, those are close-ups of stellar nurseries, not the expanse beyond. So definitely like less is more. I'm just going to go ahead and set this down, my airbrush rather. I'm going to go ahead and set that down. So as you can see, there's like very subtle smatterings of purple. It's very subtle. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out, especially depending on the direction of the light that you're looking in. But that's nice. We're going to be layering blue up over top of this, so this is going to give like very cool light, like cool soft lighting in the background. And then I'm going to start building up the blue kind of within a lot of this purple area. Yeah, it's going to be very good. This is not a print. This is a Catalyst model. All right. Got a little bit of leftover paint here. I'm going to go ahead and add this back into my paint pot because I don't like wasting paint if I don't need to. And this is already very, very thick in the bottle. So having some slightly thin paint backwashed into the bottle isn't actually going to be a bad thing. Oops. Set that there. And I'm just going to be real careful. Boom. Making dad noises leaning across my desk. Shit happens, I guess. Same thing, I'm just kind of tilting this up and then spraying out. I just spray at close range because it has a lot of pressure, especially in a small space like that. And I'm just going to go ahead and use my paper towel to wipe that clean. Now I'm going to add just a little bit. You can see that kind of tints the water a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and backflow this. Oh yeah, tons of purple still in there. Again, I'll repeat that process. This is just nice and quick. Still a lot of purple in there. That's probably because we had a small clog. There's a little bit of, I can just see a tiny little bit of purple paint glued onto the end of my needle. It's just dried on there. I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. You can see just that little bit of purple there. I'm just going to very, very gently twist with the rubber, kind of brace, and then I'm just going to use my thumb. It's dried on there pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a sponge swab, one of these guys. I'm just going to put a little drop of thinner onto it. As silly as that might sound. And then I'm just going to use that to wipe very gently. And as you can see, it just cleans it right off. Boom. And I'm just going to set this off to the side. It's actually what I had this, I had another one stuck to the side of the airbrush holder, but it was kind of old and crusty looking, so I just popped that off. Alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and put the needle crown cap back on. And still a little bit of purple in there. I'm just going to flush that. Doesn't matter if it's like perfect, because we're going to be adding like a dark blue into this. I'm going to grab Intense Blue from Vallejo. Move this out of the way. And we'll move this out of the way. So this is Intense Blue. This camera is making it look a lot brighter than it actually is. This is like a dark but very intense, hence the name, saturated blue. So it's really nice just to kind of add into that purple. And then we're going to kind of step it up from there right up to like a teal almost. Like a mid-tone teal. I'm going to go ahead and zoom this out just slightly so you can see kind of what I'm doing. Just adding a bit of thinner. Don't need a huge amount here. A little bit of flow improver. I'm going to do like, so I've probably got about a half a teaspoon worth of thinner and flow improver in there. I'm going to add probably like 4 to 5 drops. I got 6 in there of the Intense Blue, and I'm going to mix that up and just test consistency. Just mixing this. It's not a super thick paint right out of the bottle, but it's not that thin either. And again, we want this fairly thin. I don't want this to be very opaque on the color below it. I want this to be fairly thin. Again, can't emphasize thin enough. Okay, so I'm just giving very, very subtle little pulses, and as you can see, it's a very, very thinly building that blue. This is exactly what I want. This is almost glaze consistency. Boom. Just like that, nice and subtle. We're gonna quickly run through these colors, and then I am going to run to the bathroom because I gotta pee really badly. Camo Specs, I used a toothbrush with some isopropyl to clean my tip. Yep, I've used that as well. I just don't have isopropyl handy. I find the thinner just works easily enough. Dunk it in the water and run it. Yeah, I do that too sometimes. I'm just adding a little bit of blue onto some of these more saturated purple areas. I'm not going to add it onto all of them because I want a little bit of variation, and I'm not going to fill the areas completely. I'm also going to add some blue to areas that aren't purple because it is a fairly thin blue and it's going over black. It's just going to add just a little bit more variation. Very simple, just like that. This looks fairly dull right now, but that's totally fine. Just a little bit more blue to that area, because that was just a lot of black. I wanted to add just a little bit more. Same with down here. Dealing with a small clog in there. Just kind of feathering this very lightly, kind of like pressing, and then I pull my trigger backwards slightly as I swipe across. Boom, just like that. Now this, I'm going to be adding a little bit more, because again, that purple is just to hide in the background, whereas I want this dominated by blues. I'm just trying to find some areas that I want to make focal points, and then I'm just going to add this blue. Once we start using the sponge glazing, we'll kind of really focus in on a few of these areas. I think that's good, but I don't really want to move beyond that, I don't think. Let me go ahead and rinse this out. Go ahead and flush this straight through into the pot. Run it through, now it's empty. I'm gonna go ahead and spray just a little bit in there while it's running. Okay. Alrighty. Reasonably clean. I'm just gonna go ahead and wipe off the edge of the rim. All right, I have to pee really, really, really badly, so I'm going to take a quick bathroom break here, folks. Just going to go ahead and change screens. Oops. We will be right back. go, folks. We are back. Go ahead and pop us back into the painting desk. Oakley dokley. Why is it going to the bathroom? I thought that's what the spare cup was for. Not like Ray from the Trailer Park Boys. I don't keep piss jugs at my feet here. Double checking a couple things here. I'm gonna go ahead and move this out of the way. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this sucker back open. We're gonna start sponge glazing. So I just have a couple things off to the side here. I just have like a set of always on tweezers, just keeping this thing clamped. This is just a sponge that as you can see, I've used with some blue, and I've had these sponges for a couple years now actually, and I used these on some Nova Cat Alpha Galaxy stuff that I painted I want to say in 2021. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and bust these out. I have a few different ones here. I also have like a full-size sponge. I'm probably gonna go ahead and pick pieces off. I just want a little bit of a variety. Come back in here. I do have one of these bad boys as well. I might utilize this just for some like soft, smooth areas. But I like having a bit of variation in texture. I just really find that this goes a long way in I don't know, creating a lot of variation. So sponge glazing, we're going to start first with Crystal Blue from the Army Painter. I'm going to go ahead and shake this up. Go ahead and recenter my parchment paper on my wet palette. This is a little bit thin out of the bottle because I've added a little bit of thinner to the paint. Gonna put that right there. I'm gonna go ahead and be very bold, and I'm gonna go ahead and add some big old drops of water. I'm not gonna do it this way. I'm gonna literally use this. Again, my head has entered the chat. Okay, so I want this super thin. Because again, this is going to be glaze consistency, but I want a decent amount of this on my palette because I'm going to be wiping a lot of excess off onto a paper towel here. Now I do want the paper towel to be a bit damp, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of add a little bit of water to this, literally just like that. It's a very weird organic process, but it works. Trust me, I'm an artist. Okay. Those are really fine sponges. These are, like really fine sponges. These are like cover-up makeup sponges. They're really good for doing cleanup with oil washes and enamels. Really like these for those, or for that process rather. But it's also handy. I've seen some pretty cool work with guys using these just to like stipple colors on and basically create pretty nice blending, honestly. But yeah, so we're gonna give that a go. We're gonna start first. I'm gonna grab this piece here. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this like so. It's just slightly larger than that other one. I'm gonna go ahead and flatten this. Now I'm gonna dunk this in the wet palette sponge so it's got a bit of moisture. As you can see, I'm just kind of offloading a little bit right there. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab some of this paint. As you can see, it's right there. And I'm going to dab this onto the wet area. And as you can see, this thins out quite a bit here. That's what I want. And I'm going to kind of rotate this slightly just because I don't want the same texture creating like a pattern in an area. And by pattern, I mean like something that's uniform that you can be like, oh yeah, like he literally used the same ripped off corner of a sponge to do that whole thing. I don't want that to look like that. So I kind of rotate this around a little bit. I'll go ahead and grab just a little bit more. Just offloading. Now, there's going to be some areas that go, like, they kind of look very bright and bold right now. These are going to darken as they dry, especially because they're fairly thin, as you can see there. So don't worry too much about like what might seem like bold areas. And besides, like, we're going to be building actual star fields and stuff in here. So I'm going to go over some of those black areas too, because this is like a darker mid-tone blue. So we can work ourselves all over this place. And this is one of the more fun spots because you're just kind of putting this all over, and then once you put it all over, you kind of focus again in on a few areas. Go ahead and add, I'm gonna add a little bit of water, offload, add a bit of paint, offload, so. And as you can see, I kind of like went in the same direction with that, and it creates like similar markings. So again, I'm going to rotate. I'll just kind of rotate back and forth. Pretty much gone all the way around on this now. Fill in a few areas down here. Yeah, I'm kind of covering almost all of this, but I'm kind of going up and down in these lazy W's as I do this. Some of them will follow each other, some of them will intersect each other, and just creates some nice variation. Just going to go ahead and set this down. As you can see, there's just like very, very small hints of texture. Moisture, and then grab some paints. It's nice and thin. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce a few areas here that I want to make nice and bright. I've thinned this down even more. Because I want to ease some of these transitions. Zooming in slightly here so you can see some slightly uniform areas here. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit more of the crystal blue to the palette. Pardon me shaking the camera there. Again, I'm just gonna build some of these areas. I'm trying to thin this crystal blue down a little bit more than that first pass. So sponge glazing, it's called sponge glazing because you're using a glaze consistency, which is essentially a transparent paint or translucent paint at a minimum. It's kind of see-through or like very see-through. It's kind of, you have a bit of a spectrum when it comes to glaze consistencies there. Let me go ahead and place this down. I think I'm gonna debating a little bit more bold with some of the areas here. I remember to keep rotating here so I don't create like uniform patterns. Build this area out just a little bit more. More. And then I think I'll move on to a different color. This is still fairly dark. I want to start kind of pumping up some of the brightness here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to grab Temple Guard Blue. This is airbrush paint from Citadel. This is very bright, but I'm going to, again, this is going to be fairly thin, so this is going to start building some of that brightness, but I try to do this as thinly as I can. I'm also going to try using a little bit of this. Grab a little bit of water. I'm going to put this directly kind of separate from the paint itself. Mix it in there. It's like very, very thin, watery. Kind of exactly what I want. I'll go ahead and moisturize this. Because this is very soft, this should help build very soft texture, or almost no texture at all. So what it should do is actually help soften some of the stuff that we've just applied, as well as brighten it up some. And then as we progress, this will just kind of make everything blend. Because this is glaze consistency and I'm removing a lot of the excess, this tends to dry pretty quickly on the miniature because it's so thin. So you can kind of build an area fairly quickly. Just kind of focusing on this little band here, kind of on like a diagonal like this. Just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add just a little bit of actual paint. Soak up some of that moisture. This can be a little bit paint intensive, just a little bit, because you are going to be grabbing a lot of paint, thinning it out, wiping off excess. So some of the paint does get used up just by proxy of, wiping off these excess amounts onto paper towels and other things like that. I'm going to try to avoid the landing gear as much as possible. So I'm going to try to work around that there. As you can see, like, this is starting to build some of this brighter blue. I'm going to avoid that area a little bit. I'm going to start coming over here. trying to create a little bit of depth with all these different color shifts and tone changes. Just a little bit more to my sponge. I'm just trying to have a very, very light touch as I go about this. And I'm gonna try to kind of build like a little bit of a highlight zone here. And I will go with some brighter colors here. So now I'm gonna start trying to like Bob Ross the shit out of this. And I'm gonna try to think about how clouds work and stuff. And I'm gonna try to build some kind of highlight ridges and whatnot within these areas, again, to create some depth and sense of distance. So like you can kind of see a little bit of the beginnings of clouds, quotation marks. And I'm using only a few different colors here. Really not much. It's just very thin, and you take a layered approach. A little bit more moisture. Really enjoy these sponges. They're really, really nice for this. Happy little clouds right there. Oh yeah. I'm gonna focus just a little. I know I've just been staring at this in silence for like the last 3 minutes. I'm just gonna focus a little bit around some of these hard edges here. I'm back through this one area that I was building up a little bit. Yeah, and coming back to some of these hard edges. Okay. I'm just looking for other areas here. Yeah, I got some areas here I can build up. I'm gonna go ahead and put just a little bit more of water onto the palette. Okay. Just a little bit of water and some paint. My tap, 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 and shaking the camera. There, that's a reasonable consistency. All right, I'm gonna try to build like a ridge coming up this way, and another one kind of coming up in the front here. I want this one to be a bit brighter than this one. Probably going to come back in with my airbrush and just feather a few of these areas and create some like brighter edge lines, because why not? It's fun stuff. So this front little slope that I'm going to do is going to be a little bit brighter and bolder than the other one that I was just working on. So, do like a little bit back here. Again, just trying to create a bit of depth. I'm going to keep this one fairly dim. Just like so. These are kind of rough right now. This is almost like sketching in where your highlights are going to go. Kind of keeping it rough. Doesn't need to be super smooth or refined right now because we're going to be doing lots of refining later on. We're going to take our time with this one because this is a big canvas to work on. And I don't know, like I'll probably never play a game. And well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I might use this as like a drop shuttle or something just based on its scale because it's map scale. I don't ever play on hex maps. I always play with 3D terrain. I just don't really see myself using this in a game. So this will probably always just be for background pieces and photography, or I guess the occasional pickup game. Refine a little bit of this spot up here. Try to hit along this top edge of this little line I've created. It's making it a little bit bubbly. I'm going to go ahead and add just a little bit more paint to my palette. And just a little bit more water. Add a little bit of water to the sponge. Pick up a little bit of that. I'm going to go ahead and, as you can see, it's already very thin just on the paint palette. Put a bit of water in there to thin that out, which is nice. Alright, that's good. So, again, trying to create a little bit more depth by creating like some distant dust clouds that are lit up that are going to be a little bit more faint, kind of like this will be the background, this will be the foreground, if that makes sense. Trying not to wipe with this, I'm trying to just very gently dab so I create little specks. Starting to come along here. I'm going to start increasing a little bit of the brightness of the paint that I'm applying. Try to be really careful about where I start applying it, because I want to create quite a bit of contrast with this. And the other thing I can do as I'm increasing the brightness is I can basically decrease the thinness that I'm applying this with. So I don't know how well you can tell on camera, but having that purple in there just adds like some very nice subtle tonal variations. You can see some areas that seem a little bit more saturated versus desaturated, and the areas that seem more saturated are actually the areas where the purple is. So this is really, really nice. I'm gonna go ahead and bust out some white ink. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to grab some Dowler & Rowney FW Artist Ink. This is white, straight up white. I add this to my palette. Put this right down here. I'm going to add a little bit more water to the old palette here too. Add some up here. Okay. I'm going to add just a little bit the blue and just a little bit of the white. Whoa, and that wicks in quite a bit. I'm gonna go ahead and thin that down quite a bit. I might actually go ahead and grab a neat piece of paper towel here. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Weight one. Okay, go ahead and wet this thing. I want to thin out that paint and kind of mix it within the sponge. So this is going to be a slight, oh, get my head right out of there. It's going to be a much brighter color tone. I'm going to try to hit with just the tip. Giggity. Just very, very, very lightly tapping. Oops. Trying to avoid doing any like weird swiping motions. You can see like the brightness on that line has increased considerably. I'm gonna apply just very, very, very small amounts over here. I'm just essentially doing like very different, just slightly different hardnesses of tapping to create a little bit of variation. I'm fill in this area down here. I'm going to kind of start here a little bit more heavy-handed, and then feather it a little bit more as I work my way up. I'm just going to create a very small, bright cluster here. Just like so. And I'm going to fill just a little bit of this background in here. And again, less is more. I can't stress that enough. Like, don't get too heavy-handed with any of this stuff that you're applying. Really take your time, because you can always add more. What you can't do is take away. The only way you can do that is by painting black over top of it and then redoing it all over again, essentially. So just be very cognizant. Less is more. Don't overdo this. And I know that's easier said than done, but just take your time and literally set the miniature down on your table if you need to and walk away from it and come back to it. I find that helps me. I focus around this edge here. I'm going to be using a toothbrush in a bit here to flick some paint on to create some basic stars. And then we can kind of continue building a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I want to thin down some of this. This is starting to get a little bit bold with the white dots that I'm making. And I'm just going to add a little bit of both. A little bit more blue, I think. Test it out on the old Mark 1 paper towel. See how thin that's coming off. I'm going to do this on the wet. One of the reasons I like doing this on the damp paper towel is the damp paper towel prevents you from drying out your sponge. That way you always have a little bit of moisture in there. Just helps the paint come off a little bit better. Really enjoy this process because it's just kind of organic and free flow. You don't need to be super accurate. There's a few areas once you start refining that you'll have to be a little bit more accurate and a little bit more patient with, but that's more so painting like individual stars, which we are definitely going to do. I think I'm going to go back in with just some straight up Temple Guard blue and just fill in just a little bit of this background. Some of these areas where I've brightened up quite a bit, and I feel like there should be a little bit more in the background to create a little bit more of a sense of depth. It's looking pretty decent. Yeah, I'm gonna go back in with just some straight up pure, really dampen this up. Just grab some pure Temple Guard blue. Slightly darker, and that'll help to build up just a little bit of color below to kind of make a more wide transition. You want to leave some dark area between these. I definitely want to fill a lot of this in with a little bit of color. That'll help with the feeling of depth. A little bit more intense up into this transition area there. Got a Boogie, great work. Glad to see so many of the methods and tools you use. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, if anybody who can't stay for the whole thing, I always put my stream recordings up on YouTube. So, yeah. If you can't stay, you can't stay. You can always see the rest of it later on. Though I would love for you folks to stay for the duration. Go ahead and add just a little bit more of the blue. It's wet. Cool. Alrighty. Trying to fill in some of these areas, again, to use some of these transitions. Some of these areas where there's kind of shading between two bands of like space clouds. That's right, I call them space clouds because they are space clouds. Big clouds of dust and gas and all kinds of other elements. Got some bubbles forming on the surface there just because there's a lot of moisture in the sponge. Right. Okay. Starting to get there. I think I'm going to go ahead and really pump up the brightness. We're going to grab the next color up, which is Arcane Blue. Pardon my head. This is a color from Formula P3. Can't really get it anymore, although they did just have a Kickstarter for P3 paints, and this is one of the colors that's part of it. I just hope that it's still the same color, but this is even brighter than Temple Guard Blue. It's got just a little bit more green mixed into the color, but it's still very blue. It's just super, super bright and vibrant. I'm going to add just a little bit of white to this, and then I'm going to go ahead and really focus on just a couple smaller areas just to refine some of these highlight spots. I think I'm going to use that, do that rather with a smaller sponge rather than using the larger sponge. Just kind of get that cap back on. I'm going to use something that's small and fairly fresh. I'm going to really kind of pull that into a tight nub like that. just like so. Try to create just a little bit more length. There we go, just like that. I've got kind of like that little flat ridge too. I don't know if you can see that. That'll come in handy for kind of creating a more firm edge. Alrighty, let's zoom this back out. I'm gonna moisten the little sponge, dab some of that off, add just a little bit arcane blue and some white. You can tell that's super, super bright. And let's tap, tap, tap that off. To gonna focus on a little ridge line here. I'm gonna try to not thin this paint down quite as much. Trying to make this a little bit more noticeable. Not really putting a huge amount on there. See if I can do a few slightly more bold areas. A little bit up in here. Created slightly uniform patterning there, which I don't like. I'm going to try to fix that. All right, just like so. Again, focus on some of these edges and then fill some of these hot spots. Cluster in here, like so. It's a little bit the old finger feather. Kind of fix that area. That way it's not so harsh. Go ahead and grab just a little bit of pure arcane blue. Here, just want to have something that's a little bit darker than what I was using. Focus a little bit down in here. This is always a little bit tricky, just trying to make sure you have the right consistency. You don't want too much water, but you don't want too little. So then you create harder speckles if you're trying to be a little bit more soft with what you're applying. Coming along nice. I gotta kind of create a bit more of a curve here. I'm gonna build some volume up here, I think. This is just a little bit too straight of a line, I feel like. So I'm gonna try to build a bit of a hump here, so it's got more of a natural looking humpy slope to it. Here, blue. Soften some of this. Just heard a podcast today with the guy in charge of the new P3 range. I'm happy to hear it's coming back. I miss a few of their products. Yeah, I really enjoy a lot of their paints. So you can see like there's a bit of texture here, which is good. That's going to help add to some of the depth. We're going to come in with the airbrush and we're going to refine just a few of these areas and soften some of them. And then after we do that, we're going to go ahead and actually, you know what, before we do that, we're going to go ahead and flick on some stars. Then I'm going to go in and soften some of the areas and boost some of the highlights. And then we'll add a little bit more of the stars. And then we'll start adding on a couple spot highlight stars. That'll be super fun. Here, let's zoom out. I'm pretty happy with how this is coming right now. I don't want to go too crazy with building this up. So you can see I have this old toothbrush. I'm going to utilize some of the white ink and we're going to flick on some stars. Hydration break, I've been talking a lot, so I just want to make sure that my throat isn't so dry. Literally just going to get some white ink on, tap this off onto paper towel. You're not really going to be able to tell from the camera, but I can tell kind of like I'm losing some of my some of the paint from it. So as you can see, I just flicked that on. I'm going to try to pick a few areas and do it a little bit closer, just like so. Trying to focus some of the stars in there. It's very bright. So I'm just literally removing some of the excess from this and then gently flicking it on. You can test like on a piece of dark material if you want, the spray pattern if you want. I'm just freeballing it. I'm going to go in and actually manually put some stars in these areas, like with a brush, but this is just good for like background stars. Kind of fills in some of these areas. So I'm going to go ahead and grab just a little bit. I'm going to wet this, grab just a little bit more ink. That's my spray pattern on my dark sheet there. Now I'm trying to get most of my stars along this line here. Try to zoom this in just slightly. Like having a few over there is okay. This will help create a little bit more depth as well. This is a very bright area, so I'm going to add a lot of stars to this. And you can see I'm kind of changing the direction of the toothbrush. So I'm trying to change kind of the direction that these get spattered on, just to add a little bit of variation. I'm also trying to do it at the same angle as these little like cloud bands I've created. That's wild with a toothbrush. Yeah, it's crazy. Like it's just a very simple thing and it makes a big difference. Just a little bit more. just a little bit down here. I don't want to get too crazy with, because this can start producing like very, very fine speckles, and then it'll actually look kind of weird and dusty, which isn't exactly what you want. I'm going to go ahead and, after we go ahead and soften some of these areas, I'll come back in with the toothbrush on just a few of these areas, and then we'll go in manually with an actual sable brush, detailing brush, and we'll reinforce a few actual stars, and then we'll get in there with the airbrush and do some fun shenanigans. I'm just going to go ahead and add just a little bit of spray speckling right here. Boom. More than enough. Very soft. Boom. Looking pretty good so far. Later on, probably next stream when we start dealing with some of the details, all these weapon pods, I'm going to be painting in like a flat steel gray kind of, so just to break up some of these areas. Same thing with like, these vents and openings and like aerospace fighter ports. I'm probably going to do that in like caution stripe or something like that. I don't know, we'll figure it out, but yeah, that'll help break up some of this a little bit. And then we'll go in and edge highlight a lot of these areas with bright blue, and it's going to look pretty sick. Alrighty, got white paint on my fingertips here, no biggie. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break, folks. It's about we're about an hour and a half into the podcast. This isn't a podcast. We're about an hour and a half into the painting stream. I'm just going to go ahead and stretch my legs quickly, and then grab myself a Diet Coke and come on back up. Stay tuned. We're going to take like a 7 or 8 minute break. We'll be right back, folks. And... Alright folks, I'm back to the desk, just sitting on my PC, having some Diet Coke. It's always good to get up and stretch your legs. I know we took a brief pause at like 8:15 or something like that, but I like to get up and stretch my legs a lot. I think it's good. Yeah, we're gonna hop into a little bit more airbrush work. I'm gonna go ahead and ease some of the transitions on just a little bit of those highlight areas. I'm gonna start with a little bit of arcane blue mixed with some white ink, and I might push it right up to pure white ink with just a little hint of arcane blue. We'll see, but we'll start with that. And again, less is more on this. I'm probably going to go in and refine with a brush and create some more hard edge highlights with some pure white. Yeah, it's going to look pretty good. All right, I'm going to have another little gulp of my Diet Coke, and then I'll pop back over the painting desk. Right. Hope y'all can hear me. Thumbs up. Pardon me. Damn, Diet Coke is delicious. I don't mind saying so. I really like how that's coming along. Super easy, not hard. I do a very similar process when it comes to painting the miniatures themselves. So I just am a lot more careful with how much I flick. Sometimes I will just use like just a very, very tip of the toothbrush, or even just a really stiff nylon brush, like from an artist's kit from Michael's or something like that. Just something that's got stiff bristles but that are tightly packed, and then just manually tapping some stars on there. Yeah, works pretty well on the necks. But yeah, same process with all the stippling with the sponges and everything, just on a smaller scale. Yeah, let's get to it. Again, I'm going to go into a little bit of that arcane blue, and just like, I'll show you the back ends of these paint bottles here. Like, just look at the difference. This is the Temple Guard blue. It's a very bright blue, don't get me wrong. But just look at the vibrancy difference. Arcane blue, man. I'm telling you. This is the key to like PPC glow and all my stuff. It's very nice. I'm gonna add a little bit of thinner. I just want a few drops of paint total, part of my head. So I'm just going to do a little bit of thinner, just like a couple drops. A few more drops of flow improver. I'm going to put like 2 drops of paint. Maybe a little bit more, 2 or 3. Plus just a little bit of that. 2, 3, 4. I'll do 4 drops, and then I'm going to add like a little bit of white ink. Warwolf, happy to see you, buddy. I like seeing the regulars. I'm going to go ahead and add some white ink here. Just a single drop. Show you what this is looking like in a second. Go ahead and grab this brush. Now, this is going to be pretty punchy, and adding a little bit of water to this just to thin it down slightly. This is not going to be a very thin mixture. I mean, it's thin in overall consistency, but it's going to be highly pigmented because of that white ink. So just to show you, like, show you some spray patterning. So very bright, like gonna have pretty good coverage pretty quickly. So I'm gonna be very ginger with how I apply this. I'll probably come back in and reinforce a few areas with pure white. So I do have my compressor going right now, so again, less is more here. Bring my airbrush a bit closer. Might have a hard time focusing here just because the back end of my airbrush is closer to the camera. Just like that. Definitely in this area here, I'm going to soften this. Like that. Very, very light touch. I'm not going hard on this. I'm just going to put the faintest little bit. This is like a filter there to brighten that up. A little bit. I'm going to do a little bit right up in here. To try to bring this nice and close. Do a bit of a more hard edge. Like that. Try to be a little bit more subtle on this one. Doing with a bit of a dry tip here. I'll go ahead and do the old quick clean. A little bit of thinner on the sponge, just like so. And now I've got a much better spray pattern. Really enjoy this process because this is very organic, and this just makes everything look so goddamn cool. So I kind of built like a hard highlight, and then I'm gonna kind of build like a little streaking light coming down. Just like so. Build a little bit of that. Kind of spraying this from further away, and I'm feathering around when I spray here. The reason why I'm doing that is I'm trying to cover this whole area. So, just like so. I'm not going to really spray right here. I like all that tonal change in this area, so I want to leave that there. I don't want to snuff that out. A little bit of brightness. Just a little there, a little razzle dazzle right there. We're almost done here with this. I'm gonna just go ahead and set my airbrush down just so I can get a bit of a better look. Like here, oh yeah, this is looking good. Love all that tonal change. Looking pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here. I'm going to go ahead and fill some volume right here, just in the foreground, so to speak. Same with here, right here. That's supposed to be like closer, in air quotes. I think that's about good. Maybe just a little bit of a highlight right there, and I think I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more white ink to this mix. So I'm going to go ahead and dump out a bunch of excess. And so I'm kind of left with just this very thin stuff in the bottom. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a single drop of white ink. Plop it in there. It should be like a lot more white than anything else. I'm going to go ahead and mix in some flow improver as well. A couple drops. So this is going to be mostly white, and it's very thin. So I am like constantly feathering my trigger, and I'm just keeping my airflow going. And I'm just very gently pulling back. Just finding some hot spots. Again, less is more here. Very, very small points of light are really going to help here. Fill that area with just a little bit of brightness. Making sure I'm getting good flow. I'll try to do like little streaks here. Very gentle, nice and bright. Very subtle. Because this is mostly white, I'm going to just fill in that little area, fill in that little area. Cool. Look at that. Don't that look interstellar or what? Cool. Cool, 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 cool. I'm going to go ahead and clean my airbrush quickly, because I don't want any of this drying in it. We're going to go ahead and start adding some stars by hand. We'll go ahead and refine some of them and add some funky colors, like we'll add a little bit of magenta or even a little bit of like green, some green stars. I know that can't really, if I remember correctly, I don't believe green stars can actually occur in nature. But you know, sci-fi and rule of cool always reign, so double check the tip of my needle here, make sure I don't have, yeah, I have a little bit of stuff dried on. Just gonna go ahead and grab that same damp with thinner brush, like sponge swab, and I'm just pressing against the side and pulling towards the tip. I'm not applying a whole lot of pressure because I don't want to damage or bend the tip. I'm just gently wiping all the dried stuff off part of my head. I'm gonna go ahead and put the crown cap back on to keep that tip protected. Boom. And I usually just stick it on right here. That way it's always at hand. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this up and put this on another desk that's behind me. It's over here for now. This. I'm gonna go ahead and flush this with just a bit of water. Literally just run the water through. Go once more. What we will be doing eventually is coming back in with some white ink, like pure white ink with no color tinting to it, and then we'll also probably be using like some other ink colors like magenta or fluorescent red or even fluorescent yellow. We'll see what we would have been for. Put this off to the side for the time being, as well as this. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and refine some of these things and add in some manual stars by hand rather. I shouldn't say manual stars, it sounds weird. And stars by hand, not with the airbrush. I'm going to go ahead and grab that number 2 detailing brush. It's kind of my overall workhorse. Draw off on that. I'm just going to start with dots, obviously, or maybe not so obviously. I'm just going to find, like, there's a, zoom in here a little bit. There's a rather pronounced dot right here. I'm just going to go ahead and reinforce that. I'm just going to kind of tap around it. I'm just using the white ink. Doesn't need to be perfectly like round, and honestly, kind of, if you have it kind of fuzzy, that helps a little bit, just like so. Rinse my brush, and I'm grabbing just a little bit more white ink. I'm going to do another star down here. Kind of a weird spot that I chose to put it, but oh well. Just got a little bit too much moisture in my brush. Some of that away. So pretty much all these areas that have like really bright concentration of highlight, I'm going to go ahead and add a star. This is going to be a good one here. I'm going to do a couple. there. Maybe I'll do 4. Only 1 or 2 of them will actually be like very large and pronounced, so to kind of make it look like they're different distances away. Again, I always try to go for a little bit of depth on my 2D surfaces, channel my inner portable. Set my brush just a little bit there. And some areas to kind of reinforce around in here. Those just kind of be how they are. I might actually make a slightly larger one right here. No, there's no like intensity around it, but that's okay. Maybe it's one that's like a lot closer. Be a relatively large one right here. Just doing the dots for now. I'm going to come back to a number of these, and I'm going to do kind of distraction lines. It's just kind of like if you look at like photos from the Hubble Space Telescope, a lot of stars will kind of have like those 2 like intersecting glare lines coming from them. We're going to do that. Frankie Finger 77, thanks for the follow. Put it coming straight on angle there. More white ink on here. I really enjoy using white ink and black ink in place of using paints. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the consistency. They're very thin, but they have so much pigmentation that they the black ink just turns things black immediately with like one thin coat, and the white is just very, very bright. It's a good pure white. Again, this is very fun to me because this is all very organic. I'm just freeballing here. I'm just putting shit where I want to. Not really thinking too much about it. Some of these I'm going to reinforce with my airbrush as well, with a little bit of pure white, as well as maybe a little bit of color ink, especially some pinks and stuff. I'm going to probably do a couple little distraction lines here. To the perpendicular angle. Just like so. Back in and just kind of tap around the center a little bit. Again, kind of having it slightly fuzzy helps. And then that's one I'm definitely going to reinforce a little bit with my airbrush. That was a weird spot to do, but whatever. Some very, very small distraction lines on some of these. And these are just going to be kind of left as is, those tiny little ones. But like, these things go a really long way. You know what I'm saying? Such small details, but man, oh man, they go a long way. As with most curved surfaces, I'm just having to double check myself to make sure that I'm actually kind of doing these vertical glare lines vertical and parallel with the adjacent panel lines. I'm gonna come in here and reinforce a bunch. This will look nice. This one, a big old glare line. This one back here, not so big one. Smaller ones for that, and then the other one over to the left here, I'm going to do a little bit bigger. It's like a small constellation. And two of those, I'm for sure gonna, like this one and this one, I'm gonna reinforce with the airbrush. The other two, I'm just gonna leave as is, I think. Probably just gonna go ahead and tap in slightly larger center dots. Just gonna make these a little bit more bold. Yeah, do other little X extraction lines. Boom. Those look pretty slick. Wow, the little lines really sell the Starfield look. Yeah, it goes a long way. Got a few more bold dots here. I'm just going to do this one with distraction lines. Try to do this one pretty small. That over here is going to be a little bit bigger. That one I'll definitely be reinforcing with my airbrush. tiny little guy over here. Pull that up a little bit. Boom. Not bad. Have some nice continuity there between panel lines. Sorry if I'm a little bit quiet. I'm just trying to focus on being nice and accurate here. And yeah, when I'm yapping my mouth, I have a habit of not being as accurate. Three in a row there. It's going to leave this little cluster off by itself. Just, you know, cluster of bright stars, none of which quite are bright enough to have glare lines, but I'll reinforce like one or two down here. Head. Reinforce this one here because this one's just damned odd in a weird spot. I guess this is my little challenge spot as an artist here. I painted myself into a corner with this one. That's okay. Definitely going to soften some of these up. Go ahead and add some additional glare. Trying to keep the angles consistent is what's definitely difficult. Alrighty. I think we're about ready to go in with some white ink and shore some of these up. I'm gonna go ahead and put away these sponges so they're not in my way anymore. And my toothbrush. We need the toothbrush anymore. We're gonna put away that arcane blue paint. Alrighty, airbrush, engage. Flow improver. This is really all we need. We don't really need any thinner. I just need like a single drop or two of white ink here. I have a very, very minuscule amount of, do 3 drops of white ink. Very small amount of flow improver. I'm just going to go ahead and use my brush to quickly stir some of this up. Consistency is decent. Go ahead and try this. So I'm generally pretty accurate with my airbrush. All the way out first try. With just years of practice, I'm pretty good at shooting from the hip with an airbrush. I don't have my head like down behind the thing or anything. I just kind of know where this thing is pointed. Start right on the panel line. I'm going to go ahead and fill all these panel lines with black later on too. So make sure I don't have paint drying up in the tip here. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce that. I'm just very gently feathering, like literally the tiniest amount. Watch how much my finger moves. I will put white paint. Not spider web, but gives you the right idea. And reinforce a couple more here. They're all coming along pretty well. Digging this. Definitely digging this. Alrighty. I'm gonna go ahead and set this to the side for a second. Back out. Quickly clean white ink out of this. And I'm gonna grab a little bit magenta and a little bit of fluorescent pink. Grab both those colors, mix them into my airbrush, and I'm going to filter them over a couple of these enhanced spots, and then I'll go back in with the airbrush with some whiting and a little bit of whiting on my actual detail brush just to firm up the actual hot spot of white in the center. A bit right there. Ink in the channel still. Getting that backfill going. Go ahead and flush this. And then I'll probably wipe off the tip. Yeah, a bit of stuff dried onto the tip there. Bit of white stuff dried on the tip. Giggity. You get it, you get it. I can't help you. Otherwise. Go ahead and stick that back on there. It's kind of dry now. I'm gonna go ahead and add just a little bit of thinner. Tip a little bit, getting that dried ink off. Okay, good to go. A lot of tip talk here. What else? Some Dowler and Rowney magenta ink. This is, it's either translucent or transparent. It's transparent. I'm also going to grab a little bit of, gotta give this a really good shake, but this is fluorescent pink from Dowler and Rowney. Might be a little bit chunky, but this is very vibrant. Ooh, yeah, this is very chunky. I might not be able to use this. Nope. We're not going to be using that. That's okay. Nope. part you'd be using though is a tiny little bit of fluorescent red ink. We're going to add that into this mix. So add just a little bit of thinner and flush it through. Backflow and some thinner in here, and I'm going to flush the thinner through the airbrush just to make sure it's nice and clean. All right, I'm going to add some flow improver and a little bit of thinner, just a tiny bit thinner, 2 little drops, a couple decent sized drops of flow improver, and then a single drop. So we'll do a few drops of 3. The magenta was kind of like 3.5, but it's mainly because of the bubble. And then I'm going to try to do like just a touch of the fluorescent red, like just the tiniest touch. Literally just touched the, I didn't squeeze the bottle, I just touched it. Go ahead and push that down into it. It's going to make it very rich. I can just see a little clump of pigment there. I'm just going to pull that out. As you can see, it's like nice and vibrant. Spray pattern this. So it's a transparent color. It's just going to tint the color that's on here. Very gotta be careful not to spider web. I use like the very most fine trigger control I can. Just applying the tiniest amounts. As you can see, just the tiniest little bit of pink. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing to this one right here. Just a touch. I want to do at least one more. I'm just trying to, I'm going to do it right here. Boom. A bit more there. Good to go. Alrighty. I'm probably going to grab like some green and come in there with that, just because that looks always fun. Might do some red and green right next to each other, just because why not? Alrighty, cool. Go quickly rinse this bad boy out. Big old chunk in there. Had like a big old chunk of magenta ink kind of dried that came loose. It was pretty nuts. Good thing I started rinsing when I did. I'm just going to go ahead and flush this. Really digging how this is coming along so far. Alrighty. Go ahead and place these back on my shelf. Throw this out. This out too. These are old. Not inks I need to use anymore. Yeah. I'm gonna grab a mix. This is leaf green ink from Dowler & Rowney. One of their Aquafine inks. A watercolor ink, but it is acrylic based, so it works. Throw a single drop in there, and then I'm going to grab some of the fluorescent yellow that I have here. This is just the FW line from Dowler & Rowney. It's just an acrylic artist ink. I was leaning in here so I can just make sure I don't put any more than just a single drop. It's going to be super punchy. Don't think I'm going to put it right there. Maybe right here. Zoom in just slightly here. See that nice green star. I do a little green star over here somewhere, maybe. I don't know. Put it down here. Put a little green guy right there. I think that's all I'm going to do. I just want to do the two. And I'm going to go ahead and grab some pure white ink again. And I'm going to go ahead and reinforce just the very central highlights. Flush this out. Didn't have permeated too much because just put it in here, so none of this will have dried. Settled or cured or anything. Grab a little bit of thinner and flush. Thinner, you have cleaner, but I'm starting to get low, so I have tons of thinner, and the thinner helps to flush some of the color that's in there. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab a little bit of glow improver and a single drop of white ink. Two drops. Stir that up. So I can get a good spray pattern here. Very thin. I can do tiny little spot highlights. That's good. Just gonna do one right in the middle here. So a lot of that color tone is going to get kind of drowned out, but that's okay. I'll zoom in after here. these just have like the nicest little tint. That's about it. I'm just gonna quickly rinse and then go in and take a closer look at this, and I'll do the final refinements on those stars themselves by placing little white dots right in the middle. I just straight up clean this in a minute here. I'll probably be done with the airbrushing portion for the most part right now, for the next little while. But let's take a quick little zoom in here. So as you can see, that pink area is just a hint in there. Same with that one. And that green with fluorescent yellow is just a little hint there. These are just white. Got another little pink guy right there, and then green dude right there, again softened by the white. Looking pretty good. Definitely digging this. Gotta run. We'll catch the rest when you post it. Great work. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for staying for a bit. Alrighty. Go ahead and zoom out. I'm just going to quickly clean my airbrush because I'm kind of done with it for now. I think. Yeah, I think we're done with it. I'm going to go ahead and, you know what? Maybe not. Maybe we'll do a little bit of extra highlighting on this. Actually, no. We'll probably do a little bit of stuff with sponges, just to kind of get some initial chipping and stuff like that. Because I will do a little bit of basic chipping down on these areas later on. I know it sounds criminal to kind of damage some of this beautiful work, and I want to add a little bit of grime, like streaking grime to a few areas, just to add a patina to a few areas, so it looks like, you know, it's been used. It's not just a museum piece. But yeah, this is coming along really, really nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and set this down. I'll show you how I clean my airbrush quickly. Because, you know, when people are thinking about getting an airbrush and they're just like, should I? It sounds like a lot of maintenance. It's really not. I don't think it's a lot anyways. I'm just going to go ahead and spray this out one more time. Backflow, and then I'm going to flush this through, and then I'm going to take this apart and get a very good clean into it. I'm going to push this up here, and I'll push this out of the way. Go ahead and wipe this out. I'm going to unscrew this, zoom in slightly, unscrewing the cap. I'm just going to unscrew the back, just like so. So this is like the entire cap. Like there's actually 3 separate pieces to this. There's like the main cap that these 2 separate pieces are attached to. One is the crown cap, and then this other piece is like the nozzle cap. This is just like the secondary nozzle cap, this big cone piece. Anyways, got this, got my needle. Just be careful not to drop this while you have it in the state. Rather than pulling this out the back, I'm going to push this through the front because I have all this paint in the front half of my airbrush. I don't want to pull it back through the airbrush. I want to push everything out the front. So that's the direction we want paint to go, is out the front. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this, and I'm just going to go ahead and spray more, because now that this channel's free, the water can actually drip out. I'm probably going to pop this out too. Just literally pulls straight out the top. I'm going to unscrew this. I literally do this basically every time that I finish with my airbrush, because it only takes me like a few minutes, and it just is super worth it. I'm just going to go ahead and spray my water straight through the airbrush. Stripping all the water out now. That was a good flush, just to make sure all the water gets out, or all the paint rather gets out. I'm just gonna go ahead and put this back in. I don't have like any hard stuck on paint in the bottom there. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give this a quick little scrub-a-dub-dub, and then flush it one more time. It's looking pretty good. I don't really need to get in there with a scrub brush. Go ahead and build this up forwards. Oh, let me get the spring somewhere here. It's already in there. Never mind. Thought I dropped it for some reason. Just keeping that in that channel there. Pull that back. I'm just going to screw this all the way in so it's all the way tightened. And then I can use my nail just to kind of grab the piece there and pull it back. And then I'm going to guide this back into its little channel down to the air valve. Just trying to get a closer look at this because it is a small channel that this thing has to go into. Ah, there we go. Perfect. Now it's back in. I'm going to go ahead and set this in my holder. Another thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to grab a little bit of cleaner. This is just airbrush cleaner from Vallejo. Just going to spray a little bit of this, a couple drops, on my towel. I'm going to use that. I'm just going to clean the end of the brush, like the back end, like that, and then holding it up like this, I'm going to pull it down toward the tip, with the tip being at the very end. And this way I don't accidentally hook the tip on anything and bend it. I'm just going to give this like a good clean. And the nozzle is just sitting in there. It's got some paint in there. I want to force that paint out. It hasn't dried yet. This nozzle on the end just so happens to be like the perfect diameter to stick in here. So I'm just going to do this. Looking pretty good. Occasionally I will come in here with a scraper tool that is actually meant for this nozzle. I just got it on Amazon, and I will just gently scrape on the inside to get anything that's hard on there off. Just kind of scraping some of this paint that's around the rim here, because I want to make sure I get a good seal, good air seal. That's pretty good. All right, I'm going to go ahead and pop the nozzle back inside the cap, and I'm going to go ahead and screw this back on. Boom. I just make sure that this is all the way seated because I don't want this to ram into like the edge of the channel. I want it to go straight through the middle because I don't want to damage the tip. I'm just going to put my finger here as a guide, slide it in all the way to the end, and then I just need to grab the end cap. Now I'm going to slide this on, and then I'm just going to apply a very gentle amount of pressure to the back here, just because I want to make sure this stays seated all the way into the nozzle. But don't apply a lot of pressure because you don't want to like force it into the nozzle. That's not good. Just a very gentle amount of pressure, and I'm gently tightening that, and that's good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and throw the end cap on. Good to go. This is nice and clean. I can go ahead and put that, that's just water right there. I can go ahead and put that in the storage if I want, and it's good to go. The bowl's nice and clean, the channel's nice and clean, good to go. Alrighty. I'm gonna set this over to the side because I don't need this right now. have a sip of my Diet Coke because I kind of forgot about it. And I'm going to put this over here. Zoom out so you folks can actually see what I'm doing. I'm just tidying up my desk, something I do frequently while I'm working. I have this little caddy that I set up on a cabinet. Some of these bottles into it. Clear some of my space. Help with my own sanity. That over there. It's gonna be garbage. And we're gonna grab all these. These are garbage as well. Alrighty, folks. I am gonna take a very quick break here. I gotta go to the bathroom. We are closing in. We're closing in on the last hour of the stream. So we're gonna do a little bit of refinery work here. We're just gonna refine some of these edges and sharpen things up. And yeah, we'll go from there. Next stream is gonna be a lot more of the details on the dropship, as well as some weathering and things like that. But yeah, see where it takes us. Be right back. Alright, folks, we are good to go here. I'm gonna go ahead and have a sip of my Diet Cola. Let's crack on. Yeah, that's just kind of my mixing utility brush. I'm gonna go ahead and rinse this a little bit. I'm actually just gonna grab another piece of paper towel here. And I'm going to go ahead and swap the positions of my things here to the positions I normally have them in. So I am a creature of habit. My oh my, I don't know if you can tell, but my my wet palette's starting to get a little bit dry. The water level's decreasing a little bit. Oops, that's not good. It's rolling up there. Go ahead and add a little bit more water to it. Got a nice good point on this thing. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a little bit of this white ink here, and I want to reinforce some of these central dots. Well, gotta go. Nice work. Hope to catch you on the next one when you finish it. Happy that you stuck around, man. Take care. Dot here. Again, a little bit fuzzy kind of helps. Doesn't have to be a perfect dot. Pardon me. Lightly burping in the background here. Extra fuzzy on that one there. Up with. Maybe I already did this guy. I don't know. No, I don't think I did. There. Good enough. Alright, just got this one left to do. And then we're pretty much good on the stars. Like, we don't really need to add much else to the stars themselves. Got like a big old hair stuck to this. Better get this in focus. There. That's about good. Like, we don't really need to fuss with that too much. This turned out really well. You know, again, less is more. I really stuck to just a few like key areas that I reinforced. Got a beautiful natural looking star field here. At least, you know, mostly natural looking. Bertado here. Sliding this across. And, you know, leaving some of those texture areas in, along with some of the smooth areas, just really helps with the depth of everything. Alrighty, enough of me showing this off here. Let's get to a little bit of refinement on some of these panels. So we've got some Temple Guard blue. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of that. That's going to be kind of my primary edge highlight color for some of these edges, especially around. I'm just picking this area to start, especially around where we have blue starfield kind of areas forming. We're going to add a little bit of edge highlighting. Want to a little bit from bottle because the stuff on the wet palette's drying out a little bit. Probably a little bit of a ring around the edge from where it's dried. Now, this is not the only edge highlight color I'm going to be applying here. I'm going to be applying like successively brighter and brighter colors. I'm going to pick and choose where I put those brighter colors, and they're mostly going to coincide with areas like this that are really like bright. here. So it's going to be a bit of a long process to get everything edge highlighted, but I'm really just going to focus on the top and sides. I'm not going to focus on the bottom ones. Whoops. Rub that off with a little bit of saliva. I can actually also kind of like set it like this and then use that to help support, which is kind of nice. I lost where I was for a second. This is going to help to brighten up everything, honestly. Like, edge highlights are crazy that way. It's such a small surface area that you're applying bright colors to, but just especially with the amount of contrast that these are creating on this this miniature. Like this area here that I'm applying the Temple Guard blue, I'm going to be coming back in with like a heavy mix of white. With just a touch of blue eventually. But I'm going to follow the layering process. Try to thin some of this out a little bit for the dark areas. Being left-handed is a little bit awkward sometimes. Figure out the best angle here. Okay, it's kind of drawing on the side of the brush there. Sides down here. That blue just really helps everything pop. Maybe I'll just go systematically throughout the whole thing like this. I think that's what I'm going to do. Doing all the vertical ones going this way. Once I go around the world, I'm gonna kind of flip it upside down and do the same thing going the other way. I think I might even literally pop this off and stick it on upside down. Might just be the easiest way.
Trying to really come along these edges here with the brush before all this paint dries on it. So I'm just trying to move quickly. I kind of go around this guy here. With this color, you don't need to be as neat either with your edge highlights, because these are supposed to be kind of wider, less sharp edge highlights. You're going to be adding other colors kind of on top of this. I shouldn't say kind of on top of this. You will be adding colors on top of this. White Fox, what's going on? Will eventually come back in as well. I'm going to reinforce the recesses with a wash at some point, but I'm going to apply gloss coat pretty much over everything before I go ahead and do that. And I'll probably just pin wash some enamel or oil or even some acrylic into the recesses. The big seam line here in the miniature, kind of taking advantage of that. And we're basically around almost back to where we started here. Those edges are starting to pop. I just bought the stuff to try oil washing, nervous but excited. It's always nerve-wracking the first time. Just make sure that when you do oil wash, make sure you really get good, even gloss coats and let them dry and cure first before you go in and throw a mixture of a bunch of white spirit on top, or else you might end up having a bad time. I didn't wait long enough after applying a gloss coat and kind of ruined a miniature that I was working on. You know, happens, but you know, it was a painful lesson. And start hitting a lot of these higher edges. Again, a lot of these weapon pods I'm going to be coming back in and painting with like flat grays and steel colors, so I'm not going to worry about edge highlighting them or doing any details on them yet. I want to focus on finishing all of the Starfield areas, and then I can focus on the rest of the miniature. You'll notice this Temple Guard blue, like when I first brush it on, it's very, very bright and punchy, but when it does dry, it dulls down a little bit. and that's because the black or the really dark undercoat. I try to avoid the actual pink area with this blue, just because I don't want to snuff out the work that I did with the airbrush. That would be bad juju. So I didn't really get sides here. Down. A little bit rough, but that's okay. Again, these initial edge highlights can be a little bit rough. They don't need to be super sharp. So you're going to be I certainly am going to be coming back in with some other brighter colors to focus on a few other areas to sharpen up. Get all of these. And these bright blue edge highlights just really make everything pop here. Especially from like a slight above angle. They just look really nice. Especially once I start adding a little bit of white into the mix and a little bit of that arcane blue instead of just this temple guard blue. Ooh, baby. It's gonna be sharp. Some of these higher edges I'm going to leave, and I'm probably going to do in like bright grays. So I'm going to be doing grays on these edges. I'm probably going to do like a lot of chipping and stuff around the top here, and some streaking grime and whatnot coming down. It'll look pretty cool. And then I'll do lots of like burn streaks coming up from the bottom, because everybody, a lot of people always seem to paint burn scorch marks up here. A lot of them would be coming here because they decelerate this way coming into atmosphere. So yeah, we'll do some scorch marks up, probably just with some I don't know, pigment powders and I don't know, maybe a little bit of acrylics. We'll see. Figure out where I left off here on the miniature. There we go. And I go quickly here before the paint dries. I'm gonna avoid the star there with the blue here. Here. little bit too much moisture in my brush, actually. Not the sharpest, but that's okay. Off a little bit. And reinforce that with some brighter colors later. Totally fine. We're going to rub that off a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That looks better. Grab just a little bit more Tumble Guard blue. Carry on. Kind of reinforcing that bottom corner that I painted in there and sharpening it up a little bit. Almost all the way around. I'm like 3/4 done for these top ones, and then I'll have to flip this thing upside down on my holder so I can cleanly get the all the other horizontals, or I guess all the other verticals rather, ones that are facing away. I was pegging it on being left-handed that it was an issue, but I guess no matter what hand I paint with, I would have to kind of do the thing where I flip this thing upside down eventually. Even these areas that are kind of dark, when you add these little edge highlights, it really brightens them up. It's a very small, tedious step that goes a really long way. Especially like when I go back in and reinforce the deepest recesses to be dark. Ooh, be even sharper. Move along these edges quickly so the paint doesn't dry. Pretty much good to go. Oh, thanks. Made it all the way around. I'm going to go ahead and clean that brush there. Nice clean tip. I'm going to pluck this thing off. Oh. Pull this off and hope I don't pull paint off with it. Couldn't. Pretty diligent to let the primer cure for a bit before I went ahead and stuck sticky tack. Yeah, it seems to be coming off well. Just using the sticky tack on itself to kind of pull it off. Doesn't need to be perfect. At least not right now. But go ahead and the good thing about sticky tack is it kind of eats the paint, so I'm going to go ahead and flatten this out. So, and then I'll be very careful and stick this on. Applying it considerable amount of pressure. Just try to. I want to be able to come along these lines here. I think that should work. Doesn't seem like it's going to fall out of place. I'm going to brush up with a bit of paint, and I'm going to try to move quickly through these. Just drawing a little bit. Doesn't help that I have a fan going in my room right now to try and push air around because it is very hot here. So my the paint is drying on my brush a little bit more quickly than it would otherwise. Just gonna keep rinsing and reapplying because that's just going to prevent me from dealing with little stuck on nubs. Edge highlights are always a bit of a tedious step. Man, are they worth it. A few rough areas up here, but that's okay. You can always dirty those up and make them scratches later on, because I will be adding a little bit of modest wear and tear. Paint and moisture. And the hair stuck to the here. Almost done. This layer anyways. Then we got to move on to the next layer. That's where things really start to shine though. As if it's not already shining. There we go. Basically dry brushing with the edge of this brush to hit these little edges. A little bit sloppy, a little sloppier than I'd like. A few of these areas that look a little not as clean as they could be, and I think a big part of that is because a lot of these recesses need to get filled in with black panel lining to really kind of solidify this. This one. Trying to find all these edges that I may have missed, because I definitely missed a few. All right, I think we're good. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stick this. Actually, no, I'm gonna leave this stuck how it is, because then I'm gonna start attacking some of these other bright ones. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out slightly, just so y'all can see what I'm doing. Grabbing a bit of arcane blue that has a little bit of white ink added to it. So this shit is super bright. Let me zoom in just slightly. White to that mix. Adding those little highlights in certain areas there is really going to help to bump up the volume. Headed to bed. Keep up the great work. Good night. Yeah, have a good one. Thanks for sticking around for a bit. Kind of finding all these really bright areas to hit with this. Not the neatest, but that's okay. I think I'm going to go ahead and flip this thing upside down now. Or I guess technically right side up. And unstick all of this sticky tack from this guy. I go ahead and kind of put this mound back up here. and then I'll press it back down into it. Some down. Trying to make sure this is as upright as possible. Okay. Grabbing some of that same color I was using, that arcane blue with that the white. In these areas, I'm going to have to come back in with some even brighter colors, but that's okay. I'm just going to add more white into the mix for some of these areas. Especially this area, like where there's like white stars and stuff, like I'm gonna have to come back in with a pure white along some of these edges. Stroke away from that green star. Probably come back in with a little bit of pure white for that guy too. Not the neatest, that's okay. Around all these areas where there's brighter clusters, that's kind of where I'm putting a lot of the this bright color. Gently scraping this area with my fingernail because I see like a tiny little hair stuck there. I think I got it. Allow a few more of these corners with this. Just trying to brighten a few areas up. Open this up a bit. My brush out. I'm going to go ahead and fill in a couple of areas down here, and then I'm going to move to the next brightest tone. Probably going to be basically the brightest tone. I'm going to go ahead and add basically a huge amount of white ink to some arcane blue. Absolutely mammoth amount of white ink. So it's basically just going to be white that's tinted blue. As you can see, that's like considerably brighter. Getting a few areas around these really bright spots. Down here. Very dry paint now. I'm gonna go ahead and ease that transition a little bit because that's a bit harsh. There. Pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and stick that on a little bit better. Alrighty. Just adjusting my task lamp a little bit. As you can see, like a lot of edge highlighting is done. I've accentuated the edge highlights kind of where these areas are brightest. But I have done edge highlights in almost all those areas. Let me go ahead and sharpen something up here. Once I add all the panel lining to really embolden the black panel lines in between all these panels, it's gonna make things look super sharp. I just don't want to do that right now because I don't want to potentially ruin the work that I've done here, so I'm gonna make sure that I put like a gloss coat on this first. In the meantime, I can probably go on to some other details. Let's see if I can muckle onto this sponge. It's dry. Well, not quite, but that's okay, because I'm going to add a gray to it, and we're going to try to build a little bit of volume here. I'm going to do black gray. We're also going to do the same thing on the edges here, and then we're going to go in with a slightly brighter gray and some smaller sponge, and do a little bit of chipping just around like some of the landing gear bays and a little bit up here as well. Yeah. My somber gray. Boom. Go ahead and mix this in. Going around the world with this. Pressing very, very gently. As you can see, I'm getting like a very subtle gradient. I want to try to avoid any like hard transitions. I can always come back in with a little bit of just pure black gray and soften some of these areas up. Down here, I mean, like this is going to add just like a subtle amount of texture to these big wide surfaces. So I don't have all this artwork. So just having big flat surfaces that are flat and boring is, well, boring. So I want to try to really increase just a little bit of gradation up here. Might have just made that word up, gradation. Gradients. I want to build up the gradient. It's graduation, build up the graduation. Grabbing a little bit of black gray to kind of soften some of these areas down here. We're just very gently going around the world. Grandiosity, yeah, I like that. Okay. It's not bad. Trying to reduce some of the glare from my task lamp here. Although I do have like this surface is just a little bit satiny, so I'm gonna go ahead and just a little bit more. I'm gonna add just a little bit more somber gray into here. You know what? I don't want to get too crazy with this. I'm going to go ahead and add some pure black gray and soften up a little bit of the transition. Go ahead and tap, 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 tap. Take off a little bit of the excess on the paper towel here. There's a decent amount of moisture in this sponge. Need to get some more pure black gray. This is also just a fun organic process because you're just kind of going back and forth with the colors until the blend you want is good to go. Go ahead and get this straight up. So I think I have just a little bit too much the somber gray mixed into the one end of the sponge, so I'm just gonna another side of the sponge. Tap, tap, tap this off. That's a little bit nicer, I think. Be a little bit more heavy-handed with the black gray if you're kind of snuff out some harder transitions. Push you down here. There, yeah, there we go. Just got rid of that. Add just a little bit of ombre gray to the mix, and then try to focus just a little bit more on the top here. Just like a little bit of basic chipping. Kind of follow the panel lines a little bit down. Come back in with slightly smaller sponging. Just do it. What? I keep accidentally doing a big one down there. I don't know why. It's just the angle I get to. I'm gonna go back in with, actually, I'm gonna quickly hit some of these areas. Just like so. This is like the perfect amount right now. That way, any overspray from us doing the nebulas and star fields and stuff will kind of get covered up. Edges as well. Some basic chipping. And even a little bit, which is good. That. I'll kind of come in to the underside as well with this somber gray. Just to get some basic chipping marks on a little bit of this stuff. I'll probably come in with like an actual, like a smaller sponge. I don't really like how that looks. And kind of scrub that a little bit with a brush. Quick little quick tip there, if you're ever in a pinch and you need to kind of get rid of some paint that you accidentally put on, you can gently scrub. I don't want to scrub too hard though, because I kind of scratched with the ferrule. I'm just gonna hide that area a little bit. Boom. I'll do a little bit of work with one of the sponges here, but I think that's pretty much going to be all we're going to do for tonight after this. I'm just going to, just looking for a good sponge to do this with. This is a good one here. I'm going to go ahead and grab that set of tweezers. Gotta get on this little nub here. Cool. I'm going to do pure somber gray for this. Actually, I don't need any more sun on the. A bunch of the excess. You don't want to tap evenly around all these edges. Some areas you want to be a little bit more heavy-handed than others. And kind of come down along some of these panel lines. Just a little bit more paint. Do a little bit of sponging off to the side there just to kind of make like scrapes and chips. I'll probably come in with an actual brush as well and do a little bit of wear and tear. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of rotate them around. I'm going to pick a few of these panel lines. And everything up top here, I'm going to focus a little bit more heavy concentration. Extend a little bit coming down here. Getting that around. Sponge. Just a little bit more of the palette. Probably gonna be the last color that we do here for tonight. Pretty happy with the progress that we made here. We do have some detail work to do still, but like, I mean, the bulk of like the detailing is done. Especially on those star fields, and that's generally going to be like most of the detail work. We're going to do some minor detail work next time. I'm going to paint in like the missile bays and the weapons and stuff. Overall, like huge amount of work done today. Just kind of hitting some of these raised edges. Cheap edge highlights and basic chipping, it's nice. Here, some and later on I'll come in with like some darker color and fill in just with my actual detail brush. I'll fill in some of these to make them look even more scratched and dingy. I'm gonna come along some of these edges, this somber gray. Again, this just adds a lot of depth and character to certain spots. Has a sense of realism too, like nothing's going to be pristine that flies out into space. Coming into atmosphere and stuff, like it's going to get beat up a little bit. Landing gear, we're going to kind of do in some metallics and some brown tones next time, so that'll be fun. More landing gear to quickly do here. There's quite a few on this one. I have like a Borealis, which is just like an Aurora dropship from it's Hextech, so it's from Chris over at Thunderhead Studio. I'm gonna build and paint that one too eventually. That's map scale, which is pretty awesome. Or sorry, not map scale, mech scale. Gotta love mech scale dropships. Doing some basic chipping kind of across the paneling. Alrighty, I think we're gonna call this one good for tonight. We did a lot of work on this. I'm really excited to take a couple photos of this and post them up. Let's hop back over to my computer desk and we'll reflect on tonight's session. Bear with me.
All right. Tonight's session was really productive. Did a decent amount of airbrushing work as well as some work with sponges. Honestly, airbrush and sponging was kind of the bread and butter of tonight's session. Yeah, I did some cool little detailing work with all the stars. Yeah, love painting stars, man. All of these techniques I do on the mech miniatures when I paint them in this paint scheme. I will, after this dropship is complete, paint those clan mechs that I had up in the pool. I'm just painting this first, but I will paint those clan mechs and we will paint them in this exact paint scheme. I'll even do a little bit of the airbrush volume building and all the sponging and all that good stuff. It's going to be awesome. We're going to close out in a few minutes here. I just want to say thanks to Derek from Aries Minis and Games. He helps support my channel. Yeah, I help support him. Definitely looking forward to the next stream. I'm looking to start streaming during the week a little bit more often. I'm only streaming today instead of Saturday because I was a little bit busy on Saturday, and today is Canada Eve. Got Canada Day kicking off in about 41 minutes for me. Well, 40 minutes now that I look at my clock, so that's going to be fun. Have some celebrations with the family tomorrow, barbecue, all that good stuff. Definitely going to be on next Saturday. I will see about potentially streaming Thursday this week. I think the during the week streams will probably be from like 8:30 to 10:30. Just kind of a good time. It's also not too long, and some of them probably won't go all the way until 10:30. Some of them will probably just be until 10. So, you know, hour and a half to 2 hours of painting, quick and easy. Helps give me an excuse to force myself to sit down and paint in the evenings as well, even when I'm tired. So having a commitment to live up to definitely helps. Thank you very much, folks, for staying with us tonight. Really enjoyed doing this. I'm gonna have a good time painting up the rest of this next time. Hope all of you stick around and enjoy the rest of the process on this dropship. Hope you all have a fantastic week. Enjoy the last bit of your Monday evening. Have a good sleep. Enjoy your Tuesday. Hopefully it is a terrific Tuesday and not a terrible Tuesday. With a wonderful Wednesday following. So on and so forth. My name is Zach. You've been watching Real Time Painting with Arclight Miniatures. I bid you adieu.